Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are you?
Ugh, living the dream, really.
Love it. Love it.
Basically, I'm going to spend the rest of the summer just talking about the things I did in London because nothing else in my life matters. But what I would like to talk about today is the show I saw on the West End when I was in London because I haven't talked theater with Courtney in a while. And that would be Back to the Future, the musical. Now, when I found out that they had even made a Back to the Future, the musical, I was like, why? It was my only thoughts.
Why not?
Well, and then I looked more into it, and it won Olivier's, and it was really, really well done, whatever. And I was like, okay, we'll see it. Dan and I are nerds. Let's do it. It is in previews in New York currently at this moment, and it officially opens on August 3rd.
And
I'm telling you right now, if it is the same show in New York that it is in London, and it does not win every single technical Tony that there is, I'm fucking never going back to New York. Like, I'm telling you, music was okay. Book was okay. Like, they were what they were. Was not anything to stand out. But the lighting and the special effects and the staging, if they do not win every single technical Tony next year, I do not know how to theater anymore.
I'm was so excited
that big. Like, it was that good. I literally, there was one point in the show where my jaw dropped and my eyes bugged out of my head, and I turned and I looked at Dan, and he had the exact same expression on his face. Like, we were both in a complete awe.
I'm so excited. I gotta watch the movie first. But I'm also very excited. I've only heard good things about it, so.
Well, and Roger Bart is a freaking amazing. I love him. So, but yeah. Because Courtney has not seen the movie or the show, I can't really talk about the plot.
Right.
And because no one should have the moment that I'm talking about spoiled for them, I will also not talk about that. But just in general, like their use of lighting and screens and like it just so good.
I love that.
Also, in the West End, for intermission, in theaters in the West End for intermission, ushers like bring these little trays into the theater with ice cream, like little cups of ice cream that you can buy, like instead of like candy or like alcohol.
Like when waitress gave you pie and wine.
Well, no, they're like more like a concession stands. They just do it in the house, so you don't have to go back out to the lobby.
Well, no, they do that at waitress. They bring out pie and wine in the theater at intermission.
Yeah. Every West End theater does this. They have like this sponsorship with this little ice cream cup thing, and it's like a clotted cream ice cream, and it is. And they come in little paper cups. And when you take the lid off, the lid has 2 layers, and you pop the bottom out, and there's a wooden spoon inside the cup, just like when you were a kid. But it's like,
I was gonna say, like when you were a child.
Yeah, but it's like way better ice cream.
Right.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh God, I'm so jealous. I want to go now just for that, just for the ice cream.
Well, I want to go back because everything that's opening in the fall in the West End, I need to see.
I have seen the announcements, and I've forgotten every one of them.
Well, okay, there's a couple like special engagements that I'm like desperate to see, like Rebecca.
Oh, that'll be fun.
They have a show coming up called The Interview, which is a play
I did see that announcement
about Princess Diana's interview.
I did see that coming out. Yeah, that's gonna be wild.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else I just saw. I literally was just looking at like a London ticket booking thing because I'm insane. No, it's because it keeps showing up on my Facebook as ads because I've recently bought tickets in the West End.
Well, it also
But
shows up on mine because I talk about theater so much on Facebook that it's like, you want to see all the theaters in the world now? And I'm like, yeah, I
yeah,
can't go with
yes,
that, but thank
I
you.
do. Oh my God. Speaking of going places, Dan asked me last night if I wanted to go to Tokyo Disney. And I said, yeah, because I was supposed to originally, but then my trip got canceled because of
Right.
COVID. And he was like, yeah, that should be our next big trip. And I was like, oh my God. And then he was like, wait, do you want to go to Tokyo or do you want to have kids? I go,
Are those separate entities? Can we not do both?
financially, no, we probably cannot.
Is
I was like,
that your
that's
last
not
one though?
fair. No,
What do you have left?
I haven't. No, I've only done Florida and Hong Kong. I still have Tokyo.
Oh, I thought you had
I
done
still
more.
have no. I still have Tokyo, California,
In
Shanghai, and
Paris?
Paris. But yeah, it's fine.
Maybe
I'm
pick
stay.
kids then right now. Because you're not, it's not like your last one.
Yeah, I'm still saving up for that $110,000 Disney trip around the world where I get to go to all of them. So it's fine.
There you go. You do
Yeah.
that. Um,
How are you?
also living the dream. Also living the dream. I've been very like, since I've been back, very like podcasty surrounded, which has been lovely. Obviously not our podcast 'cause I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks, but now we're back. So
Yeah.
we've made it. But the night I got back, I went and saw Wine and Crime live,
Yes.
and it was so funny and so fun. Me and Noelle went, and we just had the best time. And then we went to the TikTok
Yeah.
diner, and I had pancakes, and my life was made.
Absolutely.
So that was super fun. But yesterday, I had the best podcast outing. I don't know if we've talked about the First Degree before. I'm sure we have because I've been listening to it almost as long as I was listening to My Favorite Murder.
Yeah.
It's the one that's Jack Vanek, Alexis Linkletter, and used to have Billy Jensen on it.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
post scandal, he is no longer involved. So they, for those of you who don't know them, Alexis Linkletter has done a lot on like the ID channel. She does a lot of investigative stuff on her own. And I think this whole podcasting was her idea, the First Degree. They talk to people who are the first degree to usually the murderer, sometimes the victim, but like that are really
Yeah.
close. So it's not just like someone out of nowhere telling a story. And
Right.
so Alexis interviews him and does this. And then Jack Vanek is part of Lady Gang, which is where most people know her from. I did not. But that's where she's from. And she is now married to Jared Monaco of The Maine, for those of you who listen to The
I
Maine.
love the Maine.
So I also love The Maine. So they did yesterday their very first, so it's the First Degree, so they call their like listeners firsties.
Yeah.
And so they did their very first firsties meetup, and it was in New York. And so we went down to the Francis Tavern, and it was like 20 people, and it was so intimate, and it was so wonderful. Like they gave out, so
that.
Jack Vanek used to do a lot of like Warped Tour and stuff, and she did a lot of merch and everything. So she used to do that, like she started doing the elder emo like bands and stuff. And so they made firsty bands. They're the Jack Vanek trademark. And which is very cool. And they were just like the kindest people. We just sat around and we had cocktails and pretzels, and Alexis is just, she's from Long Island, and so she's so down to earth, and she's so like, she's the easiest person I've ever spoken to in my life.
I love it.
And then Jack is just so kind. She like noticed everyone there. Like I hadn't talked to her yet because I ended up getting there late because the trains were a mess. And she like came up to me and she was like, I haven't spoken to you yet. And she was like, what's your name? I'm Jack. It was like, okay. She was like, what do you do? Why? How'd you end up in New, like, where are you from? How'd you end up in New York? She like asked my life story, and she was just so kind. And then like I took a picture with him or whatever later in the night. And then when I was getting ready to leave, I went and I was like, hi, I'm headed out. And they like both hugged me. And then Jack told me that my dress looked like it was designer. And she was like, you look so great in this dress. I was like, well, now I'm wearing this every day. So,
Right.
but they're so kind. And they really, like, there's a lot in the true crime world that obviously is, you don't know if it's appropriate, let's say.
Yeah.
Some people do a lot for shock value or for, stuff like that. There are plenty that do it right, but I feel like they do a really good job of getting real justice for the families. And doing it in a way that is respectful, because a lot of times the families are involved. And so that was super fun. So that was the first time I met them, and they're doing a meetup in Chicago next week, I think. And then they announced, I don't know if you saw, they announced they arrested a suspect for the Gilgo Beach murders
No, I didn't.
today.
Oh, wait, no,
And
maybe I saw that and I just didn't have a chance to read the article.
yeah, well, they had a press conference at 4 p.m. and Alexis was going to that. Like, she was part of it because she did Unraveled, which was the Long Island serial killer case. And so obviously people never know if those murders are actually connected or not.
Yeah.
But she was so involved in the investigative side of all of that and everything that she was going to the press conference to be a part of all of that.
Nice.
So it's just very cool what they do. And they're just so kind and down to earth, and I love them. And it was
Love it.
beautiful. And that's
Love
the end of
that.
everything beautiful. Except our spirituality.
Oh, so today I wanted to share something just quick and short and gives us, I don't know what I'm saying. The quote
That's okay.
says, remember that life's big changes rarely give advance warning. H. Jackson Brown Jr.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm here.
I know.
I am in shock and I'm here, so thank you. Let's do it. I love that though. Now it's time to get into one of the quintessential horror films. It has been noted multiple times as the scariest movie ever made.
It was
from
the
the
first
70s, so it's
horror
not.
movie. Yeah,
But
it was the first horror
yeah.
movie ever to win an Oscar for Best Picture.
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming. But it's also like even in 1999, it was still on the list of like most of like scariest movies. I'm sure it's not the scariest now because
Did you actually find it scary?
No.
No, okay.
I found it disturbing.
I found there was some moments that I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I didn't find it scary, but it was, I mean, the graphics were not there, and so just because it's from the 70s. Yeah. But like I said, it's The Exorcist from 1973. And it aired on December 26th, as all good horror movies do. Merry Christmas. Actually, I think they come out on Christmas Eve now, but
yeah,
it's in that
Happy Boxing Day.
Happy Boxing Day. And there are some other days in there. It was rated 8.1 out of 10, which feels low for how highly it was rated at the time, but I'm guessing this is a lot of like post rating, like nowadays. Because like I probably would not give it an 8.1, but because of how acclaimed it is, I thought it might be a bit higher.
Yeah, I hated it.
That's okay. You usually aren't a huge fan of all of the horror movies, so it's fine.
Oh.
But there's still plenty to talk about if you did enjoy it. The number one song was probably The Most Beautiful Girl by Charlie Rich, but I found a lot of conflicting answers, and so it could have also been Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce, which I like better. So I'm going to believe it was that one. The number one movie was Magnum Force, and the number one book was Burr by Gore Vidal. It's Vidal. I recognize the name, but I never say it.
Yeah, it's Gore Vidal.
It's like, I think so. And then on this day were some space-related activities.
Nice.
Soyuz 13 returns to Earth. 2 Skylab, 3 astronauts walked in space for a record 7 hours. So we're like making some progress.
Yeah.
Kit Harington and Jared Leto were born not in 73, but it is their birthday.
I was going to say,
not too far off from that time though. Like probably like within the next 6 years or so. I think they were both late 70s. Maybe early 80s.
Not that old, is he?
I don't know him well enough, but
I swear he's only maybe 40.
Yeah, that'd be early 80s, maybe late 70s.
No, he's 36. Okay.
Oh, okay. No, he's younger than I thought. Never mind.
He was born in 86. I was like, no, he's in my age range of people I could
Yeah.
date.
Um,
Jared Leto is 51 though, so he was born in 71. So it was
yeah,
already.
he had just been
Ew,
born 2
Jared
years
Leto is
before.
51. Fuck that guy.
I know. I just love talking about him. I hate him so much. Um, and also Gerald Ford died on this day, but in 1969. And then it's also, aside from Boxing Day and etc., it's also Tsunami Awareness Day in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
That.
So here's the thing about this movie being a classic. I'm going to have a bit more information on the front end than I normally do because these directors have been around longer. They're very acclaimed, and then the same thing with the cast. So it probably won't take hours by any means, but it is going to be a bit lengthier than normal. So the director is William Friedkin, who I will continue to talk about until I close my notebook at the end of this episode. There's so much.
Yeah.
But he's known for, aside from this, To Live and Die Free in LA, The French Connection, and Killer Joe. I don't know what Killer Joe is, but the other two I haven't seen, but I'm very familiar with
Yeah.
them. I mean, The French Connection won like every award it could win, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and some fun facts about him. Uh, Bernard Herrmann, who did the music for Citizen Kane. So Citizen Kane was one of the first movies that William Friedkin really enjoyed, he said. He thought it was one of the best movies ever made. He told him he wanted him to do the music for The Exorcist. And he said, but I want you to make it better than Citizen Kane. And Bernard Herrmann said, then why don't you make a better movie than Citizen Kane? And I was like, oh, burn, William. Ah. He did, however, have some similar torture choices he used, similar to Alfred Hitchcock. He would shoot off guns beside people's heads for shock value. They were
Yeah.
rough on people's bodies, which we will get to in a bit.
Yeah.
It was not a great scenario.
No.
He was also listed incorrectly as the youngest director to ever win the Best Director Oscar at 32, but his birth date was wrong, and so he was actually 36 at the time, and he was not the youngest to ever win it. So it was rightfully given back to someone else.
Yeah.
I forgot the guy's name. But a movie I haven't seen, he has come out and said Babadook is the scariest movie he's ever seen, and I have heard that it's very scary. The new one,
that's
like
that. No, the
2014
new Babadook.
or 27.
I've
I don't know when it
seen
came out.
clips from it, and that is enough to make me want to never ever watch it.
Yeah.
I have heard nothing but that it is genuinely terrifying.
Yeah. So that's William Friedkin. So then we go to the writer, who is William Peter Blatty, and he is the novel writer, but he is also the screenplay writer. He did both. So he's known for the thing. So here's the thing. Here's the things he's known for: The Exorcist, The Exorcist 3, The Exorcist: The Beginning, and The Ninth Configuration. He wrote on all the other Exorcist movies. I don't know why the second one was not included before the third one.
Maybe it's not good.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. It like from so I haven't seen it obviously, but from what it was saying, it is a bit of a different take on like the demon. It's kind of strange.
Okay.
So he's also oh, this is my first screenshot for you guys that I have some notes on. It says this is actually really funny. So years before he became famous for writing The Exorcist, he was on Groucho Marx's quiz show You Bet Your Life, which I think they rebooted like within the past 5 years or something. But
yeah.
What it is you go on the show and you pose as either yourself or as someone else, and you have to make him get it wrong. So either he has to say you're not who you really are or whatever. Like that's the whole thing. So he went on there and posed as like an Arab sheik, and he with so many wives that he could not recall how many he had. That was his whole shtick. And Groucho Marx was so taken aback that he ended up believing it, and he won $10,000 on the show. And so they were like, "What are you gonna do with this money?" And he was like, "Well, I have $10,000. I'm just gonna take some time off and write a novel." And that's when he wrote The Exorcist. So I was like, that's how it goes. That's fine. Yeah, and also, was it on this podcast that we talked about Tippi Hedren's lion movie where she had like 40 lions in her house that she made a
Oh,
movie called Roar? This is
no, it
just in
was
my
not
personal
on
life.
this podcast. I think that was just your personal life. I have never heard that fact
Great.
before.
So this is going to be quick then. So Tippi Hedren and her husband Marshall, someone who else, he's important. He's in movies and stuff. He does movies and stuff
Yeah.
too. They decided they had a very like weird relationship. Oh yeah, because her daughter is a famous person. This is where I came from. I don't remember who her daughter is now. But what they did was they decided they were going to make this whole movie. Essentially, it was supposed to be a real movie, but they had 40 lions living in their house. And so like the kids grew up with these lions because they were trying to raise them to create a movie called Roar, and they wanted it to be very realistic. And I don't know how they didn't all die. But at the same time that they were making this movie, apparently Marshall had like he was like working as like an agent or something for uh William, this William Blatty, but they never signed an agreement. And so like we get all the way to the end and William Blatty's like, yeah, we made all this money, but you're not getting any of it because we didn't actually sign an agreement that says you would get any money. They ended up settling out of court. But it was all amidst them having no money because they bought all of these lions to have at their house and make this movie that no one ever saw.
Also, Melanie Griffith is her daughter.
Melanie Griffith, yes, yes. I was like, it's someone like that I like that's
Yeah.
famous.
Yeah, and then Dakota Johnson is her granddaughter.
Right, yes. Yeah. So I don't know why I know that story in my life, but it is a fun fact for you now.
Great.
So welcome. All of these people just have like some of the wildest stories. So it's a bit unhinged, and I'm sorry. Not the next one though. The next one, the editor is Norman Gay, and he's known for The Exorcist. He worked on The French Connection with William Friedman, The Equalizer, like the original, and then
Okay.
Shockwaves. I don't know what Shockwaves is, but I've heard of the others, obviously. And then the other editor is Evan A. Lotman, and sometimes he just goes by Evan Lotman. He's known for Apocalypse Now, The Exorcist, Maximum Overdrive, and Presumed Innocent. So like all of these people have pretty good credits under them, but it all was stuff that happened. Well, most of it was stuff that happened like post The Exorcist because they got such a big name from doing this movie.
Right.
So then our stars of the show, we will start with none other than the title character, Ellen Burstyn. If you've noticed, if you've looked for it, it literally just says The Exorcist, Ellen Burstyn, blah, 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 on every cover of the show.
Right. I thought you were saying the title character as in The Exorcist, and I was like, no, she's
no,
not.
no.
That's not how that works.
No, her name's just with the title.
Got it.
I meant more how Broadway does title, like does the name over the title.
Right. Yeah.
So she plays Chris McNeil, who's the mother. She's known for Requiem for a Dream, which I've never seen and think I would love.
Yeah.
Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and The Last Picture Show, and of course The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So this is where we get into a bit of our torture device tracks. So the scene where she is thrown back from the bed.
Yeah.
She was on a harness and it pulled too hard that she actually ended up with a spinal injury.
Ooh.
That was pretty detrimental that, that she now has suffered with for her life.
Right.
But she is also now an ordained minister. So she doesn't drink coffee or alcohol, but she does do yoga. And I was like, did they just pick 3 things people like? They were like, people like coffee, alcohol, and yoga. And they were like, she doesn't do 2, but she's got the other one on her list. Don't worry. Like,
whatever.
Sometimes these facts, I'm like, I don't understand why you chose this, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But most interesting fact to me, she's the mentor for Megan Mullally. Like, they're very different genres.
Very different
people.
Yeah.
But kudos.
Okay.
I guess they make a good team because they're both doing well.
Yeah.
So I mean, she's still like out and about. So
yeah.
Next up we have Max van Sydow, who plays Father Marin, and he has now passed, but he was known for Flash Gordon, The Seventh Seal, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, and Minority Report. Again, all things I have not heard of The Seventh Seal, but everything else I've heard great things about.
Yeah.
He's one of the few actors who's played both God and the devil. Um, which is always seems to be an interesting fact for when I look on Wikipedia.
Right.
And he is the only male Swedish actor who was nominated for a Tony ever. And he's one of, I think it was 6 like actors total, like Swedish actors total who have been nominated. I mean, not Tony, an Oscar.
Oh,
Yeah. And there was like Ingrid Bergman was like one of the first ones. It's like 6 really well-known people, and they're the only Swedish people to have ever been nominated for an Oscar.
fantastic.
Yeah. But he passed in 2020, which was sad. So then we go to
Also, sorry, before
yes.
you move on, also, I
Sure.
was just double checking that I wasn't wrong, but Ellen Bernstein is the only original, one of the only original cast members who will be returning in the 2023 Exorcist movie. Chris McNeil is in that
Oh,
movie. Yeah.
interesting. I hadn't even looked to see who was in the cast. I had
Oh, no,
not
I
even looked
just
to see.
remember when we did research on it, it said that Ellen Bernstein was
Mhm.
coming back, and I was like, oh, because I was just assuming
Is Linda Blair
like,
not coming back?
no.
Interesting choice. Interesting.
Right, I'm
Um,
fascinated.
yeah. Because that's what I'm talking about next. And I know she did come back for a lot of the sequels, so I'm surprised to hear she's not in this one because
Yeah.
she's also still acting.
Yeah.
She plays, of course, Reagan, which is we will talk about. She's known for Savage Streets, Hell Night, and Roller Boogie. She did all her own roller moves in Roller Boogie. She was very into the roller
Fantastic.
times. But she did receive a lot of death threats for this movie, even though she was a child. But that's fine. And
Yep.
so Warner Brothers had her under protection for 6 months. And then they stopped having her under protection, even though the death threats had not stopped. So her family ended up having to shuffle her between 4 different states constantly until the threats
Ooh,
stopped.
love it.
Oh, Hollywood. Good times. And
We
now
love to
she's
see our
very
children
like,
protected.
yeah, she's very like charitable and seems to be doing really well with her life. All of her money now goes to different charities, and she's really focused on like animal rescue and stuff. So
Good.
I
Love
think
it.
she's vegan now. Like she's doing all kinds of things that seem to
She
be
was
really
on the
well.
last season of The Masked Singer.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm so behind on that show, but like she's still doing stuff. Like she's
Oh,
still out and about. But yeah. So last but certainly not least, we have Lee J. Cobb, who plays Lieutenant Kinderman. He's known for 12 Angry Men, On the Waterfront, Exodus, and Our Man Flint. And this might be my favorite fun fact. The
okay.
character of Willie Loman from Death of a Salesman
Yeah.
was written specifically for him by Arthur Miller.
Love that.
And so he ended up doing there were a ton of shows he did for Arthur Miller. Like apparently they were like super close, but Willie Loman was specifically written for him to play.
Love that.
So yeah. So let's get into it. So obviously neither of us had seen this movie before today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have like expectations? Did you know anything about it like going into it?
I knew that it was supposed to be creepy. Um, I feel like now that I've seen it, I realized all of the scenes that were creepy I'd already seen. Which is why it isn't scary to me, I don't think. Um, I knew it was supposed to be like scary. I thought it was supposed to like be kind of open-ended, which I guess it was, but I didn't understand the ending at all, so that made it a little more
I got
difficult.
the ending, but I didn't feel like it was open ended. But I know there's multiple sequels, and
Yeah, like that's the thing is like I
Reagan
didn't.
gets possessed again, so like I don't
Yeah, I
know
fully don't
how or
understand.
why.
I fully don't
Yeah,
understand.
if this was a standalone, I get it, but since it's not, I don't
Yeah,
understand where it was meant to
correct.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know a lot about it. I hadn't seen a lot of the like videos of the scenes, but I'd seen pictures of all of the scenes that were supposed to be scary.
Oh yeah, no. The
Like
vomiting,
mushy peas. Yep.
the vomiting, the crab walk, the head spinning all the way around. I think the only scene that actually shocked me, because it was the only one I hadn't seen before, because you can't play it on YouTube, is the is the stabbing masturbation scene.
Yeah.
That's the
And that was
only.
actually not performed by Linda Blair. That was by Erica Dietz, who was her double.
Yeah.
Who did also like a lot of her voiceover stuff for the demon, which was probably for the best. She was already an established actress at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but
yeah.
that was the literal only scene that shocked me at all, because it was the
Mm-hmm.
only one of the four like big creepy moments that I genuinely had
Yeah.
never seen before.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was like, I wasn't shocked. But even like, I think even if I had seen those other scenes, because of the quality of it, it's got that like same feel of when you watch older movies, which this actually didn't have it so much, but it has that same
No,
feel of
it
like
actually
you see
surprisingly,
claymation type stuff,
yeah, it was
but it looked a lot more
surprising.
realistic.
Yeah, I was surprised by how little I felt the like, oh my God, this is so old, the way I felt like when I watched Halloween.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh yeah.
but no, no, the one thing that I think they did really well, I just didn't understand the point,
Mm-hmm.
was the subliminal, like, insert shots.
So there was actually a lot more of those that were supposed to happen, and they got
Okay.
taken out
Okay. Well, I
over
mean,
time because they want it to be more of a running theme throughout.
well, because,
And I think they are
somebody,
maybe back in the director's cut, but like
because
I had,
I know a lady had a seizure in the theater and blamed it on that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
she did. And they ended it in
but
a settlement, so we don't know what happened. There was no
but I
one
do know,
being
because I
involved.
know the scene where the dead mom is walking up the subway steps, and then it flashes to the creepy face, and then I
Mm-hmm.
literally rewound it because I thought I like had a spasm. I
Yeah,
was like, did I fucking see that? And then I went back and I go, oh shit, no, that was there. Okay. And then, but then from then on, I knew it was coming whenever it came. So like,
right.
but
Like as disjointed as this movie may have been, and not as captivating as I would have liked, I won't say I hated it. It
no, I don't
was
know that I hated
actually
it.
pretty well written, I think. Like it
I think I would
just
have
there was
liked
some
it as a book.
execution that was a little bit, yeah.
I think I would have liked
So
it
I
better
don't
as
know
a
that
book.
that's true because it was apparently much more graphic um as a book. And like
Okay.
they wanted like the stabbing masturbation scene was like 12 minutes longer than that, and they
Yeah,
didn't do
no.
it because they were like,
No,
this
just
is gratuitous.
because
So
the
like,
first 45 minutes of the movie were a waste of my time.
yeah, I literally, so I started the movie and it starts, obviously it starts in Iraq, so they're in a different language. And I was like, did I accidentally rent a foreign film? Like, what
No,
am I
see,
watching right now?
my problem was I just recently went to the British Museum and had a very long conversation with a lot of people about how uncomfortable it must be to have to travel to England to learn your own country's history, because, so
Sure.
my thought when that started was, oh, good. All of our problems go back to white men taking things that they shouldn't have. Great.
Yes. Yeah, I was like, of course we start with uncovering something that we shouldn't have, that we should have just left buried.
Yeah,
But
no. But then to be
they
fair, I don't fucking know how that's connected either, because they did a
so
terrible job of connecting it.
it was terribly done at connecting it, but the idea behind it is actually kind of smart. I did read some of the background on it, and they made it to where it was more of like they start out in Iraq and they have like a Muslim prayer, and then you come into like this household that's not religious, and then you have the Catholicism. And what happened was they wanted to make it all encompassing of religions because while it was a heavy Catholic focus, obviously, they didn't want it, they wanted it to reach everyone. And so they
No, no,
tried to tie in all
fine.
these pieces.
No, that's not what I have an issue with. That's fine. Cool. But in the dig, he finds this thing and this necklace, and then they have this moment, and he's walking through the desert, and then he sees this fucking statue, and everything's kind of creepy. And then they never fucking explain that ever
Yeah.
again.
So again, it's connected, but they don't tell you that. So it's the it's a creepy demon that if you say it's supposed to be bad luck, so I'm not gonna say it, but there is a the demon that was possessing her is supposed to be a really well-known demon, and the statue that he found, that he uncovered, was a statue of that demon. And so him uncovering it was what released it into the world, and then it attached to her, and that's what happened.
But how did it get to her from Iraq?
Right.
Like,
no, yeah, you don't get that from what you watched.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can make the assumption that he released the demon into the world, because also the demon then knows his name. Great, cool. All of this so far it checks out. But how did the demon travel from Iraq to a house in Georgetown, Washington? Couldn't fucking tell me. Yeah. How did a different priest have the chain on that he found in the? It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't connect. It doesn't connect. And that, like you said, the first 45 minutes, it's so disjointed, because like even when we're seeing the priest with his mom, and it's like we're going back and forth between these scenes that don't connect for so long. Like, and they kind of do it.
And I don't need but I don't need that much backstory for any of those people for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, and I know more about Burke Dennings than I ever need to fucking know about anybody in my life, and all he is a plot device for death.
I was gonna say all he is dead. Like, and that's one flaw I find in a lot of these movies that came out around this time. Because the same thing happened with Psycho. You have that very first part that's actually very intriguing. Everything after the like shower scene, it's like 45 minutes of this could have been a 5-minute scene that like you told us what happened after. And so this one was a little bit flip-flopped, but it's the same thing, and you see it in like all of these old movies that it's like,
well, and that's why did we do that's this? Why, if obviously the gratuity would make it more uncomfortable, and I would not like that at all, but that much exposition can work in a book. It cannot work in a movie. Yeah.
And like you can build suspense, but you have to do it with music. You have to do it with lighting. You have to do it with events. You can't just say it to each other.
Right. And okay, here's the thing. The Exorcist theme, that music is so iconic. And as soon as it started playing, I was like, oh, something big's going to happen. And then it fucking didn't.
No. And it's only played. So I was reading about that. It's only played 4 times throughout the movie, but it's like made as this like entire thing that it like runs through the whole thing, and it just is like 4 small pieces. Like,
yeah. And the first time it played, it was just Miss Chris walking down, that's her name, right? Chris McNeil. Chris walking down the sidewalk, and then she sees the Father Karras, and then she keeps walking. And why did we hear that music at that point? Like, you know, just, and you know what I mean? It doesn't even, and that's the thing is, I understand that it's a different time. I'm not even commenting on the fear factor or the special effects or any of the things that you would normally criticize about a 70s movie. Right. I just find so many issues with things that shouldn't have happened in any movie ever. Like, it's not a, like, if they had all of the good things about this movie, like the good plot points about this movie with the same special effects, I could genuinely see it being scary. But because the first 45 minutes bored me so much, I don't know if I was paying attention enough to the scary things to be scared.
Right. But also, this movie was 2 hours long. This could have been done in an hour. Like, you could have done the same. Do it as like a mini movie, even like a horror movie of the week, you know? Like, it doesn't, I mean, it wouldn't have gotten as big that way, but it was, and this isn't even the director's cut. It's an hour and 15 minutes. It's not even director's cut.
Right.
Like,
and like, I've read so many things about it being banned in different countries and people passing out in the movie theater and it being so horrifying. And granted, I don't know what it was like in 1973 when you didn't see gratuitous gore on TV all the time. Yeah. So I will obviously give credit where credit is due. But like, I was uncomfortable. I found things disturbing. I found things creepy. I was never scared.
I'm not going to have trouble sleeping tonight from it.
No.
And I think that's
I mean, I might, but I also just have trouble sleeping all of the time.
Well, sure, yes, not because of this, though. Yes, same. But yeah, like in this movie, I'm a little, now that I've seen it, I'm a little shocked to see the high acclaim, because also, while I just said Psycho could have been cut shorter too, Psycho came out before this, and I felt like it had way more suspense going on. And like, I was more.
Well, I mean, Alfred Hitchcock isn't the king of suspense for no reason. Like,
right. But
But
like if you have a movie like that and then you have a movie, what is it, 5 years later, like this come out and they're like, this is the
yeah,
scariest movie ever. And I'm like, it's not though. Like I
right.
would have more trouble sleeping through some of the suspense I've seen from Hitchcock that's also not that scary now, but like than I do from this. And so it's just and again, like you were saying, the end, whether it's open ended or not, whether it's meant to be, I don't know. I don't think it should
I
have been
don't,
open ended, but it seems like it is. And
yeah.
so it
Well,
doesn't.
but also, like, I also don't understand the ending. Like, he took the demon out of her and then killed himself to not let the demon take control. But like, how does that actually kill a spirit? It doesn't.
Which is why I assume there's a second movie. But yes, and it happened so suddenly. Like I know there's their conversations. They're like, we can be together again. Like when it was his quote unquote mom within the demon or whatever. But it's
But
like
then, like,
we're
also,
still.
did they kill the old guy priest or not?
He died trying to. No, no, they didn't kill him. He died trying to do the exorcism because
It was just
if you
so
remember, they
exhausting. It was
said,
so exhausting and
yeah.
like draining.
If you
Okay, and
remember,
so
they
he just
said the last one almost killed him,
got it,
and
got it,
so
got it.
this one actually killed him.
It was
Yeah, I think.
because he was actually able to do exorcisms and he was using all of that power and like physical
Right.
mental energy and it just killed him. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought happened, but then also I was confused because I thought maybe they stabbed him with a cross, but then there was no blood, and then I
Mm,
was just very confused.
yeah. No, yeah, he just died. But then when Karis came in, and it was like we could be together again. He's like, "Oh, is that how it's gonna be?" And then it's like immediately that way, and then he's out the window. And it's like we've been watching this play out for 2 hours now, and it's over in 10 seconds. Like what? Like
Yeah,
that was just it was such a meant to be build up for something that didn't have like a satisfying ending,
right. No.
and it
Also,
was
like,
just so
fuck every
strange.
doctor in that movie.
That was my first note. That is my first note I had. I was like, I am so mad at everyone in mental health. And like, also, this guy started out as a priest and then went to John Hopkins and Bellevue and all these places and became a like a psychologist. And then he went back to being a priest, but he was like not believing in demons. And I'm like, aren't you a priest? Isn't that your
Well,
job?
and
Like,
then the guy was like, "There's only been 100 like confirmed cases of split personality in the whole world, so like, I don't believe you."
yeah, there probably was in the 70s. That was probably still the rule.
But like,
Um,
don't be an
no.
asshole.
But then also it was like this guy was trying so hard to believe in anything that wasn't a demon too. Because when he was like, I can refer you to like for an exorcism, he's like, but it's all in the mind. And if they just think it's real, they'll think the exorcism's real too. And I was like, why are you trying
I
so
mean,
hard to
okay,
not like buy
to
into
be
this?
fair, there is a lot of so-called possession and things that are
Sure.
out there in the world that are just mental breakdowns, and that if you get what you need to tell yourself you're better, you will be. Um,
But also usually
but of
that
course,
includes
that's
like
also
medicine or something too. Like it's not always just
oh yeah,
something you can
no.
figure
I mean,
out.
sometimes you have schizophrenia and you need medication,
Right.
but like no, but I do think that there's definitely like a willpower aspect to it
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of mental health conditions, but also there is actual like writings and history that proves that demon possession may exist. So
Right.
like if you have studied both the Catholic Church and the field of mental health, completely writing off the idea of a demon existing feels not correct to me.
Right. And like if you start seeing this stuff, like it's hard to believe. I'm a Christian, I believe in God, whatever. But like
Yeah.
if you show me stuff that quote unquote conflicts, like I'm also probably gonna believe that. But it's because I don't see one thing, like I don't see it as separate from each other either.
Right.
And so like I don't understand how you could be like, this is what I believe of medicine, but that means demons aren't real. And it's like that doesn't mean that. That's not how that works. That's not how math works. And so it's this whole time, I was just so angry. And I was like, and
But
even if you
also,
think it's a mental health issue, you're not doing anything for that. Like,
but like also we're talking about the 70s and the amount of mental health and psychiatry that even existed. So like how would you even not believe in demons? Because at that point they probably like still thought that flat feet gave you learning disabilities.
right, they understood more about demons than they did about mental health at the time. So like, why is that their automatic go-to? I don't know. That was wild to me. I was so literally, I think it's like my first three notes. I was so mad at all the doctors.
I was mad at everyone who was on the archaeological dig who didn't need to be there. I was mad at all of the doctors. I was mad at the police officer who was using confession as a way to get out of doing his job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was mad at Burke Dennings for getting drunk and trying to fight a Nazi. For why was that in the movie?
It's the 70s. Like we're far enough like removed from that didn't that
Right,
wasn't
like it's not 1954. We're not still fighting Nazis.
No, it's that was wild.
Or at least not like openly at a dinner party.
Sure, right. It's not like it's in conversation as much. But yeah, so also one of the things, well, quick question. Do priests become other professions? Is that a thing? Like,
so different orders of priests can do different things within it, but like becoming a priest doesn't necessarily mean that that's your only job. You can be a priest that like preaches at a church, but you can also be a priest that is part of an order that everyone who is in that order is a teacher. You can be a chaplain and like work for hospitals and things like that. So it is possible. I don't necessarily know that priests tend to go to school to get full on other degrees. But
so it's familiar with like chaplains and stuff, so that makes sense. And like teachers make sense obviously as well.
And like missionaries, especially like in the time when there were still missionaries, you had to have some kind of medical stuff because you were going into like crazy situations.
Like everyone did. Like it wasn't limited.
That's fair. No, but so yeah, priests can have additional jobs, but I don't necessarily know that being a psychiatrist is also I also don't know because the amount of people and the types of jobs within the priesthood are vastly different now than they were in the 70s.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, psychiatrists are different now than they were in the 70s, so
that's true.
You know, they were probably both in half positions at this point, even if they went through med school. But yeah, the other thing that really set me off before I started getting into more like fun fact discussions.
Yeah.
So we talked about how the graphics weren't really that terrible for being a movie from 73. Like they weren't what I expected. Except the scene where she has her belly and it says "help me." And so I did read about it and
about the prosthetic stomach.
Yeah. They did take a prosthetic of her stomach. And it was the way they were like, oh, it went so smoothly because they shot it and it looked like it was bubbling up. And I was like, that felt very sudden when I was watching it. Like, I don't feel like I had like a watching it happen. It was like not there and we flashed back.
Oh, see, I did.
Oh, did you?
I felt like because I felt like because the shot that it was on it for a longer time, I could see it starting to ripple and be shapes, but they didn't look like letters. And then when it went back, most of the letter, like I thought it could have been drawn out longer. Yeah. But also at this point, they drew out everything unnecessary. God forbid they draw out the necessary things.
Sure. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I did see that. It just felt very sudden for me. I was like, oh, okay, we're not going to like really see this go forward, but just enough, I guess.
Just enough. No, we were too busy fighting Nazis in the kitchen.
Well, the important things. Also the power of Christ compels you they've said it 14 times in a row. That's when they had that whole big scene. I was like, that feels like overkill. That didn't actually kill anyone.
Here's the thing. It might have been, but it is one of the most memorable things of this movie. Do you know how often I say that to people?
Power of Christ. The amount of times I've heard that from everyone in my life.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you've seen this movie. It doesn't matter what generation you are. Like, everyone says this.
Yeah.
Correct. So, like, stands out. Um, so I think we've gone about 45 minutes. So I do have some quick I have like 20 pieces of trivia, so it's quickish.
Yeah.
That we'll get through. So you had talked about it was banned in a lot of places, which is
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
But also the original teaser trailer apparently was too scary that it actually got banned like from almost all theaters. So like they released it and then we're like, nope, can't use that anymore.
Just kidding.
Just
Definitely
can't.
not gonna do that.
Yeah. And this is again a little bit baffling, but it was the time. It is the highest grossing Warner Brothers film of all time. And now that accounts for inflation and everything. Like it's not like it didn't make $3 million, whereas something else made 2 million this year. But based on inflation rates, it's the highest grossing.
You're telling me that not a single Harry Potter movie outsold this movie?
I'm thinking it must have been production costs set it off because it did make quite a bit.
Because I was like, "Are you?"
It was a lot more expensive to make.
I was like, were the people in 1973 on straight crack cocaine?
Yeah, I mean, also probably yes. But it was the highest grossing, so I'm thinking it must have had I did not look up its budget, but I'm guessing it must have had a really low budget.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it still in 1999 was being rated as the scariest movie of all time, and so you do it for 26 years.
Budget was 12 million.
Well, that's a little higher than I thought it was going to be.
But it grossed 428 million.
Yeah.
So that's a difference.
Yeah. So it's quite high. It's also the highest grossing rated R film ever. Which is a little more realistic, I feel like, because a lot of rated R films don't span generations. That's the other thing is like I feel like so many people watched this as a child. Like I feel like our parents' generation, so like they were born in the like 60s. So this movie came out in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so many of them saw this as like a child or like an early teenager. And I was like, you are not old enough to see this. Like this is very disturbing, and like it was wild to me.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was yep.
So Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets had the smallest budget of any of the movies, and its budget was 100 million.
Yeah, that's where I
and it made 879 worldwide. So that is still a much bigger margin, but we were poor then. Like our money was worth nothing.
Yeah. So it's inflation rates. It's not direct. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but speaking of like children seeing it, so Chris McNeil's son wanted to see it because everyone was watching it, but he was like I think 7 or 8 at the time when it came out, and she was like, absolutely not, you're too young. And so she finally let him see it for his 14th birthday, and apparently he came out afterwards and was like, you were right, I was too young to see it.
Thank you so much. I would like to never do that again.
I was like, yep, I think you're still too young at 14 too, but maybe you can only fight for so long. Like,
right.
And it was the 70s and people seemed to care less, so that's fine. So like I said, Mercedes McCambridge, who I believe also Erica Dietz, I think Mercedes was their stage name, was the one who did the voice of the demon. And to get that voice, she had raw eggs, she chain smoked, and she drank whiskey. However, she was currently starting her recovery process as an alcoholic, but she insisted that whiskey was the way to make her voice this way because she had experience with it over the years. So she insisted on having someone with her while she was doing this so that she wouldn't end up going across the line. She could still like keep that like
she would drink exactly enough whiskey to make her throat do that and then have it taken away from her.
Yep. Which I was like, there's gotta be a better way, right? Like,
can I tell you a thing?
Yeah.
This is anecdotal information, but I have it from reliable sources.
Oh, I love that.
That speaking of alcoholics and their jobs, I personally knew someone, they have passed on now. So it's a different time, talking about priests in different times. I personally knew someone who was an alcoholic in recovery who went on to join the priesthood. and was told by the Catholic Church that the wine for Mass didn't count.
That's not how alcohol works.
And so they would then have wine with Mass every time they did Mass.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
And to be fair,
they're alcoholics.
To be fair, he was a very good person. Like he really did only drink the wine at Mass, and then he did not like binge drink after.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
But because power of the mind, he believed that was what he was doing.
Yes. You can convince yourself of so many things. It's wild. We got to watch a movie one day that's all about like stuff in the mind, because I go off on tangents of how your mind can convince you of so many things, like physical and mental. It's wild.
I mean, and this was like my great grandparent generation, so like long ago.
I still feel like that might would happen today, though.
I don't have, again, anecdotal evidence based on things that I know of the past. I do not know anyone who is currently a priest and an alcoholic. So I can't guarantee
there's anything wrong being a priest and being an alcoholic.
Correct. No.
I do, however, not saying that wine is still an alcohol.
Yes. So I'm not saying anything about, I'm not judging your choices in life. I joined the priesthood, become a recover from your alcoholism. Absolutely. I encourage both.
Yes.
But I don't currently know anyone in that position to find out if
how it still goes.
If that is still the message that is. Yeah.
I'll research it.
I do know some priests who are not alcoholics, but who do enjoy drinking when they are not at work.
Well, they are Catholic, and that is a running theme in Catholicism. Drinking. So a lot of them start in the Irish. The Irish Catholics, that's all they do is drink. So
the Polish are also.
Oh, the Polish, yeah. They'll get you too. So there you go.
Now that I've just like alienated everyone in my entire life.
Spanish, I mean, all the Catholics are drinking. It doesn't matter where you're from. A lot of the early ports of Catholicism were, and
the Brits left the Catholic Church and they still drank.
Yeah, well, they did a lot of things with church times. They don't know what religion is. They pick and choose, much like the Baptist. So it's fine. It's fine. We're not condemning religions here.
No, not at all. That isn't genuinely not what we're doing. It just sounds that way.
It just sounds that way. I was raised Baptist, but also my mom's Catholic, so I am this is coming from a place of knowledge and being people. You are just Catholic all the time.
No, I'm not.
Life. You are. No. You teach at Catholic school.
Well, no, I went to Catholic school. I teach at a Catholic school. I was baptized Catholic. I am not.
Well, no, yeah, but like your everyday life, I feel like, not maybe your personal life, but you're wrapped up in it. Like I was never baptized Catholic, but I felt like I was Catholic the whole time I was at Loyola because it was all that I had every day.
Right.
And so, but yeah. Speaking of the UK though, when they found this movie very disturbing, as many do. And so a lot of their like towns banned it. And so because of that, this very fun invention came along that people created what they called Exorcist bus trips.
Oh my God, I heard about that.
I had never heard about this. It is fat. They just put people on buses and shipped them to the next town that it was allowed in. And it was like, what?
Listen.
Like, does this happen for other movies? Can we get on a bus train for films? Like, it's so strange.
Can we have banned book bus tours?
I was just about to say that. Like, we have bus vans. We have library vans that go around. Why not put some banned books in one and send it to people? Yeah. I think it's far away now. I was like, it was right here. My like read banned books pin was just right here.
Nice.
I've removed it to a bag somewhere. Yeah. So another thing about William Friedman.
Yeah.
He's Jewish. He's not Catholic.
Is it Friedman or Friedkin?
I think it's Friedkin, now that you say that.
Oh, okay.
Let's see his name. Friedkin. It's Friedkin. I just keep saying Friedman. My apologies. But he is not Catholic, he is Jewish. However, at the end of this filming of this thing, he considered like converting to Catholicism. He ended up not, but he did consider it. And he
Yeah.
also was like so freaked out by the process that he asked one of the like guys working on, there was like a technical guy on the set, to do an exorcism on the set and like to clear any bad energies. And the guy was like, that's not my job. I don't do that. And so they ended up calling a priest in who didn't do an exorcism, but he did come to the set and say blessings over it and convince them that everything was okay so they could keep going on. Which, to be fair, their first set burned completely down, which put off
Yeah.
for a bit. There's like
Actually,
a murderer on the team. Like it was
yeah.
so like
No, a lot of the stuff that I know about the behind the scenes movie is because I watched like a 45-minute screen rant video about haunted movie sets.
Exorcist is
And
one of the like biggest
some of
ones.
the shit that happened on
Yeah.
the set of this movie is bonkers.
Yeah, that's why I feel like I've like mentioned some of it in passing before, so I didn't get too
Yeah.
much into that side of it. Yeah, no, it was wild. I thought that was so funny though that they had to have a priest come out to do that. So also, Linda Blair, Linda Blair was
Yeah.
not, so she was with an agency at the time, but she was not the one they recommended for the show. They actually recommended 30 other actors over her. The reason she got the part was because her mom drove her to the audition and sent her in. She was never sent by her agency. And she ended up being the one they picked. And so that was fun.
Um,
Um,
my favorite fact about Linda Blair has absolutely nothing to do with this.
Great, I'm ready.
It's just the line from the last 5 years where Kathy is really upset that they didn't cast her in a musical, but they cast Linda Blair in a musical. Which just is a comment on stunt casting.
Yeah.
But it makes me laugh every time.
I have not seen that, but maybe I'll watch it one day. But I do have another fun fact about Linda Blair. So she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for the Oscar. But they nominated her before they knew that she's not actually the one who did the voice for the demon, because originally Mercedes McCambridge had asked to not be credited. And then the film did so well that she eventually came back in and tried to sue Warner Brothers for not crediting her, and they credited her. But because this didn't come out before, they were like, it was such a big scandal apparently that like she didn't actually do the voice, and that's what she was getting nominated for someone else's work, which was shady. But you can't remove a nomination once it's done. She didn't win, obviously, because of all the scandal around it. But I was like, and I think that's her only Oscar nom, like, that she's had.
Yeah.
So that's rough, but life goes on. This was Jason Miller. This was his film debut. I have already
I read
forgotten
that.
but he was one of the main guys.
He was Caracas, the younger priest.
Yeah, you're right. He was.
Karras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the to be heard.
He also actually a priest.
I think so. There were a lot of them. I was reading about, and a lot of them actually were priests that were on this, and like there were some of the like staff in the hospital and stuff were actually NYU like medical staff. So there were a lot of people on this film that were not actually actors. They were just in the right profession to be involved. I think he was a priest, and who is it?
Yeah, no, he was. He was a
minister now, but no, Ellen Burstyn's a minister now, but one of the other guys was also a priest. This is kind of funny. So Ellen Burstyn.
Jason Miller was a Jesuit priest who was a teacher at a Jesuit school.
Yes, that sounds correct. I did look that up. I forgot. It was strange how much like this movie intertwined with like real life for these people, which probably made it worse for them when they were.
Yeah, for sure.
So Ellen Burstyn was in Tucson filming Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore when The Exorcist was opening in that city. And so she went to the theater to like see the opening, and she was like seeing everyone's reactions to different scenes and everything, obviously.
Yeah.
And she like saw someone who looked like they were about to pass out after the movie was over, and so she watched them, and like she ended up following them out of the like towards the exit of the theater, and they fell backwards to pass out, and she caught them, and then she thought about it, and she was like, I can't be the first face they see
Oh yeah, no, for
when they open their
sure.
eyes. So she had to like grab another person who was at the theater, like a random person, and be like, can you take care of
Can
this
you
person?
do
Because
this? Because
this is going to be terrifying if I'm the next face that they see after they've just passed out from my movie.
yeah,
And I was
that
like,
would
that
be
is
awful.
so funny. Um, yeah. Yeah. So that was that. So, like you said, this was nominated for Best Picture. It is, in fact, the only horror movie that's been nominated for Best Picture other than Get Out.
I was gonna say Get Out is the only other one.
Yep, those are the only two because there's movies that like fall under similar genres, Silence of the Lambs, Jaws, and there was one more, but they're
Sounds.
not listed as horror films.
I'm trying to think what the other one was more shocking to me that it wasn't listed as horror than
I wonder
Sounds
if
of
I
the
wrote
Lambs
it
and
down.
Jaws.
I didn't write it down. I was like, I can't remember. But
Uh,
yeah, it was Sixth Sense.
yes.
Yeah.
No, okay, that's fair that it wouldn't be listed as
Yeah.
horror.
Those were the other three that they were like would have run up against it, but they weren't listed as thriller. I mean, they weren't listed
Yeah.
as horror, so
Well, I mean, but then there was also that moment that when Get Out got nominated for Best Comedy.
right, right. I mean, to be fair, Get Out earned whatever they wanted. I thought that was really well written and executed. Like I figured out a lot throughout, but I didn't figure out all of it until the end.
Oh, that
So
was so good. So
yeah,
good.
that was. I need to go watch the new one. Nope. I
I
never
haven't
watched
seen I haven't seen Us
Us.
yet
I haven't watched
either.
that one either. I haven't watched
I need
Us
to
or
I need to watch Us and Nope, but I need to not be alone and in the dark to do that.
Fair. I think I watched Get Out on a plane. Like that's where I watch all my like horror movies is on a plane. Um, this is really cute. So Ellen Burstyn at the end of filming, so she wore a horseshoe bracelet to make it look like she had like the worst possible like trinket that was supposed to be like luck against the demons. And so she wore this horseshoe bracelet throughout the entire film. And then at the very end of filming, she ended up giving it to Linda Blair. And
Yeah.
then years later down the road, they ran into each other at an airport, and Linda Blair was still wearing the bracelet that she had given her.
Oh, that's so
So
sweet.
kind. Uh, I promise I'm almost done. I have like 3 facts left. Um, producers wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to actually play Reagan in the film, but Janet Leigh said no. So Janet Leigh was like, "This is not gonna work for my child."
Which
Mercedes,
is then crazy because Halloween only came out 5 years later.
right? But to be fair, Halloween
But
was not as disturb. It didn't have as disturbing.
that's true. And Jamie Lee's character did not have to do any of the graphic violence
Yeah,
stuff.
there was no violent. It was no like, yeah, no, it wasn't Hitchcocky or anything. So
No.
that was good. Um, Speaking of, Alfred Hitchcock was actually offered the film before it went into filming, and he turned it down. And then they also tried to bring him in as director again after it started filming, and he turned it down again. So I wonder what would have happened if this was a Hitchcock film.
The
It would
music
not
would have
have
been
been
the
graphic.
music would have been better.
They would have had a better musician for sure. But this guy, like,
Not that the music is bad, it just would have been used better.
well, and the thing is, like, William Friedkin went through so many people trying to find the right music, and it just never landed.
Yeah.
Like, um, and then so Mercedes McCambridge, who did the demon voice and was
Yeah.
like kind of the backup for Linda Blair. Her and Linda Blair have never met in real life. Like, just have never met each other, and I was like, that's
Right.
weird. Um, this is Ozzy's favorite movie. He saw it 8 times in theaters, but
Who was
shocked.
Ozzy?
Osbourne. Ozzy
Oh,
Osbourne.
okay, that makes sense. I was
You
like,
know,
but you just like said it so casually, like Ozzy was like one of our friends that I was supposed to know.
he's kind of one of my friends. I book with his songs. Talk about him every day at work. So we're not besties by any means, but
Right.
if I hear Ozzy, that's all I think of. Um, so I have 2 more things about William Friedkin. 1 week after the film released, they called him up to ask if he wanted to film if he wanted to do the second one, and he just said hell no and hung up the phone. That was it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then no, this is about the writer William Blatty. The cabin that he was in that time he was like away that he wrote The Exorcist in used to belong to Angela Lansbury. Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
This is why it took me so long to do my
Murder
notes.
She Wrote.
Murder he wrote. Like that's why it took me so long to do my notes because there's so much. There were 512 trivia facts, and I didn't get through all of them on IMDb, and it was so much. And last, speaking of people that were playing themselves in this movie, however, this is probably a little more unethical than a few of the other ones. The mental patients that were in the hospital scenes were actual mental patients that they caught on hidden cameras. Not all of them, probably, but it seems a large portion of them. So
Cute.
that's cool.
My favorite fun fact about this movie is that the Greek woman who played Damien's mother
Mm-hmm.
had never acted before. They like found her in a grocery store, and she reminded both Friedkin
Yeah.
and Patty of their own mother, and so they just put her in the movie.
Yep, I did see that. That was funny. I was like, well, this. I feel like that's how this movie was cast. Like so many of these people had not acted.
They were just
before.
like you just sure you look like some guy I knew before.
Right. You can go. Yeah, I don't remember. How do we do movies? Do we punch people in the face still in movies? Is that a thing we do?
Sure. I mean, I guess.
I know it hasn't been that long since we've done a movie, but I just don't even remember.
I don't remember.
I don't know that I have an MVP.
I don't know that I have an MVP or somebody I would punch in the face. I really just feel.
Final thoughts? You have final thoughts?
I hope the TV show's better.
Yes, because on that note, for our next season, as we like to do, we pick out a film and then we watch the modernized version of it. We will be watching the 2016 TV series of The Exorcist. I have no idea how it is related to the movie. I think I read somewhere how it was related, and I do not remember. So I don't know if it's
I'm pretty sure that what I read was that it's a direct sequel to the first movie and pretends that all of the sequel movies don't exist.
Interesting. That'll be a fun adventure.
Unless that's what I read about the new movie and not about the TV show. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll all find out together, I guess. Because that's
so.
what we're going to start next week is with episode 1. You can find it on Hulu as of today, which is July 14th. I did double check today that you can find it on there. So let's hope it stays there at least long enough for us to get through the show. But yeah, so that'll probably be a fun time though. I mean, we had a great time doing Bates Motel after watching Psycho, so I'm hoping it's the same experience with an exorcism show. Which, to be fair, exorcism is one of my least favorite of the horror genres.
I'm not really a fan of demon stuff.
Yeah, I feel demon and exorcism are separate genres. I get it, they're not. I get that they're the same concept, but like Insidious is demon to me. And that terrifies me, and I don't want to watch it because I can't sleep. But then there's the exorcism movies like this, and I'm like, this is not scary.
Yeah.
But it feels like the same story over and over, which is not always true either. But I'm excited to be pleasantly surprised and enjoy all of it because it's going to be amazing. I know it. I feel it in my bones. If not, it'll be nothing else but a fun time.
Yeah, so, it'll be at least our take on it will be amusing.
Yes, at least you will enjoy us. Probably. We're always fun because we are also funny. And if you want to talk to us about it or have thoughts, or if you've seen it and don't want to spoil it, but you want to tell us if you liked it or not, you can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you Sunday for our season 4 premiere of Stargate SG-1. See ya!